Hello.
Hey, Jake, welcome to the 1-800 BJJ-HELP podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me on, especially with the time difference, making it a little bit difficult out here in Australia for you guys to get me, but I really appreciate it.
No, all good. That's the hardest part with our podcast is like three different time zones with Jake in Hawaii and then you're in Australia. So it's
Yeah, nice, nice.
pretty cool. But as a way of introduction for those who haven't heard of you, do you mind maybe telling us a little bit about yourself and then we'll dive into a couple topics here?
Yeah, cool. Jake, school. I'm a black belt. I think second degree now. Yeah, second degree. I'm based in Perth, Western Australia. Still an active competitor, have my own gym, but I'm probably more known for the athletes that I coach or help around the world to achieve their goals. I've been training for 16 years now, so been around a little bit. Only do no gi for me. Yeah, that's pretty much me, man.
And I think one of the notable athletes you've been coaching is Adele, right? And I feel like you've really blown up a lot after coaching with her. And I heard a couple episodes on mental models. Who are some of the other pro athletes you like to work with?
Yeah, so she was the first, you know. So we always talk about her. She opened the door not just for herself, but she brought me with her. You know, I've been with her for a while. So she's one of the more notable ones. I work a lot with Dante Leon and Keith Krikorian, and then a lot of females, man. So Brianna St. Marie, Mo Black. Um, there's a bunch, man. Who else? I always forget, man. So I try not rattle them off because I always forget who I work with. Valerie Wong is a really good one, man. Shy Lily. Who else? Man, it's hard to remember. There's a lot, man. Well, I think when we get more into it, I'll be able to bring up more because I'll use them as examples over things. But they also, you know what athletes are like, man. They also get a little bit upset if you don't if you don't mention them, you know. So I usually try and stick to Adele and Dante because nobody picks on those two, you know. So
That makes sense. So to kick us off here, we wanted to dive into your thoughts on guard retention. This was recommended by your buddy Mark Trowbridge. He was like, "You got to ask Jake
yeah,
about guard retention." So maybe we can nerd out a little bit there and then go into the coaching after.
yeah, for sure, man. Would love to.
Yeah. So first, I guess maybe how did you develop your guard, and then how do you help athletes develop their guard, and what's something different you might be doing?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like it's funny because I play a lot of guard now. Like I pull guard, you know. Not only do I pull guard in competition, I also pull guard in the training room. You know, I love playing guard. I didn't actually play guard until I got my black belt. You know, but I didn't actually understand how to do jiu-jitsu. To be fair, you know, I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a game plan. It was basically just go out there and my jiu-jitsu would hopefully be better than their jiu-jitsu. A lot of that involved wrestling and getting on top, but man, my thoughts on guard retention are quite deep. You know, like there's your basics. Obviously, your grips is important, and what guard you want to do. But we also look into the mental aspect of things on why we can force someone to play our game and how. You know, so distance management is a massive one for us. That not only includes the distance that we play at in relation to our guard, but also the length of our opponent, how tall they are, how long their arms are, how long their legs are. You know, and then we go a little bit deeper into their passing style. Are they outside? Are they inside? Are they pressure? Are they float passing? You know, do they use submissions to try and set up guard passes? You know, where are their weaknesses in terms of their passing style? You know, are they weaker when they're being wrestled? Are they weaker when they're being swept? Are they weaker when the leg entanglements? There's a lot there, man. So we definitely delve a lot into it. You know, the pace as well. So a lot of people think pace and intensity are the same thing. They're not the same thing. You know, we can control a pace very slow, but the intensity be very high, because that involves not just the physical aspect, but the mental aspect too. So, like if you take Adele, I'll probably reference Adele a lot in this, only because she's the easiest one to do. There's a lot of footage of her. A lot of people know who she is. You know, so it's a little bit easier. So if you look at Adele, you know, if she gets in her close guard, the intensity of the match actually goes up because the threat of the submission or the threat of being finished or swept or whatever is quite high. So the intensity in the match is really high, but the pace is very low because close guard is a very slower position. So it's not so much about like how hard you're going, but it's how much you're able to control what your opponent is doing. You know, so we got Brianna St. Marie. She's doing the crown coming up. There's a lot of young girls in that bracket, man. It's a very stacked bracket. Um, so we very much look at like how we can control the pace of the matches because throwing down with 5, 6, 20-year-olds is probably not a good idea. So when we look at guard retention, man, we really break it down as much as possible. And then you can look at, your framing system, what your guard retention style is. I don't like to invert. I'm not very good at inverting. I'm old. I'm frail, but I'm very strong when I get close and make grips. So for me, it's all about making sure I can make grips too. My framing system is all about making grips, not so much about inverting underneath like a Levi or something like that.
Yeah, that's very encouraging to hear because I suck at inverting. And so I thought to
Yeah.
be a good guard player, you have to be good at inverting. Can you dive a little more
No.
into like how you developed your guard and
Yeah, definitely, man. So I felt the same. I did come from a gi background, so I played a lot of spider guard. I played a lot of like bolos and things like that, and I just wasn't very good at it, man. And I'd get my guard, passed a lot, and it would frustrate me so much. I'd rather get submitted than have my guard pass. So I was like, what am I doing? And then I just realized that my style was different. So how can I attach to someone and force them to play my game? So that involves a lot of, like I said, closing the distance and making those connections, but also just making sure that, people aren't flanking me enough that I have to invert. So that's crucial. So how do I stop the flank? So these days, a lot of self-framing helps a lot with that. So being able to frame on your own thighs, and create that distance there, is number one. And two, just also making sure like whenever I'm in a position that someone might bolo, just have the option of being able to wrestle up is a big deal. Instead of actually turning onto my shoulders, maybe I bring my knees underneath me and I'm able to take a shot, or I'm able to sit through back into my guard. So being comfortable with that, is important. I think the ADCC rule set really helps with that because obviously turtle is no score under any circumstances. So playing with the ADCC rule set in the gym for so long, because that was what, a few of our athletes, their goals were, it was actually better for us to be turtling than to really try and get that guard retention going too much where we're losing breath, or we're giving too much, if that makes sense. So like, that definitely helped, man. But like I said, just understanding what your style is, I think that's so important. And I think nowadays, especially with how I coach and who I coach, is like doing that from an early age. And I mean early age in belt development, let's say. So like a lot of the time I was told, purple to brown is when you should start looking at what your game is and like refining your game. Now throw that out. Like blue belt, like minimum. I think you need to be a blue belt to understand positions and understand some jiu-jitsu. Like you should, like my blue belts will have completely different games to me, and I love it. You know what I mean? I tell people this all the time. Like I'll show you technique, or I'll give you a strategy or a game plan. But if you're not comfortable with that, you're not going to use it under pressure. So don't, figure out what works for you. And maybe you might take a small piece from here, a small piece from there. That's great. Do that. You know what I mean? So by the time you are a purple belt or a brown belt, you've already got a game solidified. And I think now with what you guys are doing with your apps and, how much knowledge and how much opportunity to learn is out there, you should be able to do that from a younger, like I said, age or younger development.
yeah, could you maybe break down like these general styles of guard play and maybe share some examples of those you've coached with?
Yeah, so like obviously, like you would look at stuff like Adele was going to go into more of a closed style where she's looking to close guard, or she's looking to get to like a low knee shield. Dante plays more of like a reverse De La Riva. He likes to invert a little bit. He wrestles up really well, and he also attacks the legs really well. So Dante's guard is, really multifaceted. If you look at Keith's really good at leg entanglements. So when Keith gets his guard, he's not only working his wrestle ups and his sweeps, but the ability to finish from the leg entanglements is there all the time. So there's a lot there that people can look at. Changing from the upper body to the lower body is definitely, one thing that people think about a lot, but it's also not just attacking. It's like, where are you off balancing? Are you off balancing at the lower body? Are you off balancing by taking out a post? Are you off balancing by elevating? Are you off balancing by scooping? Are you off balancing by snapping? Are you off balancing by pushing back? Like there's so much there, and this is why I think it's important that, you have coaches or you have mentors so when I talk about these athletes, I don't really like to call myself a coach. Like I'm not Dante's coach and I'm not Keith's coach. Dante has Heath, Keith has Boogie and Eddie, obviously, and guys like that. Like I'm more of just play like a role of like, I guess helping. I don't really have a name for it, to be fair. I just fill the gap where I can. And I like to call it like, you guys obviously watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, or know everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. Yeah, he had a coach per se called Tim Grover, when I say this, people get butthurt, like, oh, I'm trying to like say I'm like Michael Jordan or Tim Grover. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to use an example of like Tim Grover didn't coach the Bulls. He coached Michael Jordan. He coached Kobe Bryant. You know, Phil Jackson coached the Bulls or the Lakers. I don't coach teams. I help athletes. You know what I mean? And whatever that is that they need at that time, that's what I do. You know, so when I say that, why I'm talking like that is because, you know, how much technique would I send to Dante? Probably not much. You know what I mean? But how much do we strategize and game plan and go, okay, where can we fit this in? You know, where can we do this? What does his training look like? Why is his training look like that? What weight class is he doing? Like, you know, what weight class does Dante Rion do? All of them. So, like, what does that change for us in the training room? Things like that, man.
Yeah. Could we maybe dive into some of the specifics with how you're working with Brianna in preparation for all these young competitors?
Yeah, so Brianna's an interesting one too, man, because she's a bit of a gypsy. She travels a lot. You know, she doesn't really have a like. She got a home base when she's in Canada. But you know, she travels a lot. She teaches a lot. She's all over the place. So with someone like and Brianna's, and she won't mind me saying this, she's terrible with communication. You know, she gets real anxiety from her phone. You know, which is it's not a bad thing because like I think we all spend a lot of time on our phone. But she's not great at communication. So that's one thing we've got to work on a lot with her is just making sure not just how she communicates, but how I understand how she communicates and not treating her like the other athletes. So with her, with the crown man, you know, she did Gi Worlds this year and she got bronze. You know, she made a little mistake with the last 20 seconds, and that was just a mistake because she hadn't spent a lot of time in the Gi. So what we went back to was she just did the Rome International, you know, Nogi Euros is probably more prevalent in terms of like, oh, that was a big win for her. But we were actually really focused on the Rome International because she's in the gi, you know. So we were looking at a certain amount of things, and you know, for her, it's more about using her experience for this competition. So these girls are going to come out, they're going to be firing, they're going to be fit, you know, they're going to be fast, but Brianna's got the experience not only of being an active competitor for so long, but she's won this thing before, you know, and we need to put emphasis on, yeah, that's difficult to do, you know, and once you've done it, you have that belief that you can do it again. So what we're doing a lot with Brianna at the moment is just fixing small areas of where she lost it at Gi Worlds and where we think we can capitalize with these younger girls. But again, I'm not a massive Gi guy, man. So I'll actually pass on whatever I see in the Gi to whoever she's working with in the gi. So at the moment, she's with Gianni out in New Jersey. You know, so this is what I mean by coaching role. This is what I see, but whatever you guys see, I'm happy with too. Just let me see where that fits in with the overall game plan. Like I don't have any ego to that. I don't need to be like the man when it comes to, you know, coaching these athletes. Oh, everything flows through me and that's it. I'm the boss. Like I don't care, man. I care about them achieving their goals and doing what is best for them all the time. You know, so yeah, she's excited, man. She's in shape. She's good. You know, she's happy. And when Brianna is happy, I think that's a massive difference between the females and the males. When the females are happy, when Adele's happy, Brianna's happy, etc., they're extremely dangerous. When they're not happy, you know, that's when we got to really focus on picking them up. Whereas, you know, the males, Keith, Dante, whatever, they don't care, man. You know, Dante don't care about whether he's happy or not. He cares about winning. So it's like they're two different mentalities and they're two different, they're very different to deal with, you know, but I enjoy doing both. I enjoy doing both.
Yeah, when it comes to guard play, what are the ways you strategize in terms of how to slow people down?
Man, I love close guard. Like people don't understand how good close guard is, man. And I don't know why. And I'm trying to bring it back. And, you know, maybe I'm not the guy to bring it back, but, you know, Adele does really well with it. But when we think about close guard, like, the person on top can only defend, you know. And I know Craig Jones has some funky stuff from close guard, but Craig's an anomaly. You know what I mean? Like he's one of these guys. And the other thing is like, okay, they might attack your legs, sit back for a leg lock or something. A lot of the athletes I work with, good, do that. See how well that works for you. So when we get to close guard, we can not only control the pace and the intensity, we can also we like to use reset as a really big word in our vocabulary because we want to reset things all the time, man. If something's not working, the strategy, the pace, you know, whatever, we need to reset. You know, we don't get timeouts. We need to make our own timeouts. Close guard's great for that. You cannot attack me from close guard. So if I get you in close guard and constantly break you down, get an overhook, get a collar tie, you know, great. I can really reset the position. Not only that, I can sweep, I can take the back, I can attack upper and lower body. All these things, man. Everything that you want in a successful jiu-jitsu strategy can flow through close guard. And the other part of that too is like, how do you get out? Like there's some guys Kit, has done really well with the bringing back the Sao Paulo pass. But then you saw with his Wagner match, Wagner saw that and was like, I'm gonna add this submission to it and have fun with that. You know what I mean? So like it's still very hard to do that. So the main form of escaping close guard is to stand up. Every time you stand up, you give me a shot at your legs. So I like to explain this in a way that you look at Leo Messi, for example, in soccer, right? If you give him a shot at scoring a goal, the chances of him scoring are very high. He just needs a shot. He doesn't need 20 or 30. He needs minimum. We're the same. I want my athletes just to get a shot. So if you put Adele in close guard, the chances of her submitting you are very high. Yeah. So we just got to get there. We got to just take that shot and get that shot. So when people get to close guard, they have to stand up. Well, if someone is playing on their knees or playing a very stally game, it's hard to get to the legs. That's a leg locker's worst nightmare. But if we get to close guard, not only can I go K, but I can basically just pull myself into an ashi, outside ashi, a normal basic ashi, any of these things, reaping, whatever it is. And basic off balances will work. You know what I mean? So just kind of bringing it back to like close guard being like one of those really, really good positions that not a lot of people are utilizing at the moment. Victor Hugo is another one. Like imagine being stuck in Victor Hugo's close guard. Like, like how? Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, how are we going to deal with that? So yeah, we do a lot of that, man.
Right. Why do you think closed guard gets a bad rap, or what is it that people are getting wrong about closed guard?
They think it's boring, and also like I think there's a stigma on like people want to say they're new school compared to old school, and they want to like kind of split the two. It's like, yeah, but everything you're doing that's new school, someone's done it, so it's actually old school. It's just coming back around. I think that's a huge thing, man. And like I could go on a rant for days about social media and stuff like that. If I teach a closed guard technique, it's not cool. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to get a lot of views, so people don't want to watch it. You know what I mean? But I'd say this to the athletes all the time. Like, I don't care, man. Like, you look at my social media, I've got like minimum followers. I post not a lot. Like, I don't care, man. What I care about is winning. What I care about is being the best jiu-jitsu athlete I can be, the best coach I can be, and then putting that onto you as well. So, like trials is this weekend, East Coast trials. I've got a bunch of athletes competing at East Coast trials, right? I said I was on the phone to Mo Black last night. I was like, Mo, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a rough day. There's some good matches. We don't need to go out there and highlight every one of these girls. We need to go out there and win because no one cares how you win. They care that you won. And Claudio Calazans won the open weight at ADCC without scoring one single point. He did not score a point in 4 matches. But no one really remembers. They just look at his resume. They're like, oh, man, this guy won the Absolute at ADCC. That's crazy. But no one remembers. You know what I mean? Like Fabrinho and Haffer have fought 10 times. Tell me how every one of those matches went. You can't, unless you're like really, really into it. You know what I mean? But you'll be like, man, but Haffer won most of the time. Yeah, how? Tell me. You know what I mean? So it's more about like just understanding that we're here to win. And okay, winning's not always the goal. Like sometimes it's difficult to win, or you have, Adele, with the judges' decisions and stuff like that. It is what it is. So sometimes it's just about having a really good performance and controlling what we can control. And that's super important.
I heard you talk about this on a previous podcast, and I thought it was like very well said, where there's a difference between like your brand value and like your record. And like
Mhm.
someone like J Rod, who was like 0-5 or whatever in W and O events, has tremendous brand value because he's exciting, but he
Mhm.
wasn't winning a lot. And
Yeah.
I think it's just I think a lot of people tend to lean into that side of things because those are the athletes that they like to watch or tend to have like really high brand value. But I
Yeah.
think your like more nuanced approach of saying like there's one way to look at it in terms of like brand value, but then there's also like the actual winning side of things that is also
Yes.
incredibly important. And sometimes that gets overshadowed by just trying to be like the most exciting you could possibly be.
Because for me, man, it's also like when we talk about social media, and I'm not talking about J Rod himself or anybody that does this, because when I give my opinion, people think I'm against the other side. I'm not at all. This is just how I view it. You know what I mean? And if you told me I was wrong, which someone did in my seminar like a month ago, I was like, that's cool, man. Like, you do you. Like, I'm happy either way. But it's like, like you said, man, when you're talking about brand social media, what's easier? Like slogging away every day to actually win ADCC or to grow 200,000 followers? There's white belts with 200,000 followers. You know what I mean? That do jiu-jitsu and their niche is jiu-jitsu. So for me, it's like, and I'm not knocking, like they're definitely working hard. I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is like when we focus on these things, like for me, we use a word all the time. It's called undeniable, right? We speak about this all the time with my athletes. I don't care about your followers or your social media or whatever. I care about making you undeniable that these promotions that don't want to put you on or don't want to pay you a certain amount of money or these brands that don't want to sponsor you or whatever, they're not going to have a choice because you are so involved in everything and you're the only thing people want to see that they're going to have to do that. And that's where we started with Adele is just being absolutely undeniable. You know what I mean? And let's look at Dante. Dante's the same, man. He takes losses for sure, but he's undeniably one of the best pound for pound grapplers that's ever lived. You can't say he's not. He's fought absolutely everybody from every generation in every weight class. We had this conversation the other day. He's beaten, not versed, beaten something like 25 plus adult black belt world champions. That's ridiculous. Like that's unheard of. You know what I mean? And he won't get his flowers till he's gone. That's fine. He doesn't care about them. But that's what the mentality that we have. You know what I mean? We are undeniable, and that is what it is. And that's difficult because it doesn't come fast and it's slow and it's a lot easier to get validation on social media. You know what I mean? Especially Adele. She's a young female, man. She's 25, 26 now. It's very easy for her to put a post up and everybody tell her how great she is. And then I'm sitting in the on the side going like, no, we're not yet. We've got this and this and this to do. It's hard, man, but that's where this comes in. And that's why you see the difference between her and the other top 5 females. You know what I mean? And that's what we focus on a lot, and this is why my coaching style isn't for everybody because I won't give you that out. You know what I mean? I won't give you that excuse per se. Oh, I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to do that. No, man, we're going to do this. And this is why, everything for us is planned. Everything for us is structured and we might have to deviate from that. That's fine. But none of it is just willy nilly. You know what I mean? None of it's just chucked out there and gone, let's see if this sticks. No, that's not how this works. Like there's ADCC years next year. We're already planned for that, man. We already know what we want to do. We already know how we want to do it. We already know what it looks like. We already know like the training structure that we want. You know what I mean? And we were over 12 months out. I've got people that are like either not registered for trial, not me, but like people I've spoken to, not my athletes. They will not get a pass at that at all. But like not registered for trials or haven't looked at their bracket or not sure about their weight cut. I would know that Adele knows what she'll wear at IBJJF Nogi Worlds on December 12th, like what her kit will be. She knows that now because we're that locked in. You know what I mean? Like this is how focused we are, and it's not for everybody, but it's for us.
This idea of making yourself undeniable, I heard Declan Moody talk about this relatively recently, where he was kind of getting the short end of the stick by not being picked
Mhm.
for B teams
Mhm.
squad and then having to do the trials and stuff. And then his mindset just kind of shifted of like, I'm just going to be the best, like
Yeah,
make it undeniable. Like, yeah, I
yeah.
am that guy. It was,
100%. And that man, and like he is, that's what
yeah,
he's doing,
exactly.
like he's doing it. And that's the thing, man. Like what I do and what I show to these athletes is not new. I take this from all other sports, all other like professional sports. Anyone that I can find that I can relate to any of the athletes, they're all different. Adele is tennis because her partner is really involved in tennis and loves tennis. Dante loves hockey, so it's a lot of hockey stuff. It's depending on who it is and what it is. This is where we'll take it from. I'm a big basketball fan, so I take it a lot from basketball and basketball players. So like Declan's mindset, man, like I love Declan. He's obviously an Aussie. He's a good friend of mine. We've spent a lot of time together. I don't coach him. I have no affiliation with coaching him at all. But that mindset is exactly what he needs, and that's exactly what I would have told him. You know what I mean? Because don't whinge about not getting these opportunities. Go and take them. Go and take them from these people. And that's exactly what he's done. You know what I mean? He's gone from losing to Kynan twice at ADCC to, I guarantee if you put him and Kynan on a mat now, I want to see it. Like I want to see those two go at it again. So he's gone from losing twice to a guy where you'd probably be like, oh man, I don't really want to see that again. We saw it twice, to being like, nah, man, but this could be different. Like that is hard work, and that is the definition of that mindset, man. And that's why he is where he's at.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier about finding your style even early on at the blue belt level. I'm curious how you help those athletes. Let's say you're speaking to the blue belts. How do you help them find their style when it comes to guard play?
What is there? What do they enjoy the most? You know what I mean? I always believe that like whatever we makes us happy or is I'm losing my words, but you understand what I'm saying. Like whatever makes us happy or we enjoy doing the most, do that because there'll be something in that that you're going to be able to build up and um, take from that to build a better game. So for me, it was straight footlocks, man, and it's easy to say that now because they've come back around and everyone loves them. So you see me doing them, and they're like, oh, he's just following the trend. Bro, I had like the two moves that I used at between white and black belt were a guillotine and straight footlock. That's it. I didn't have anything else. I armbarred someone in competition last week. That's the first armbar I've ever got in competition, which is crazy. I compete all the time, man, but it's crazy, right? So for me, it was straight footlocks. So then it was like, okay, well, how do I build my guard around getting to the straight footlock position? And then how do I then make myself an expert in that area? Now, it's funny because I lost at WNO from 50-50 chasing a straight footlock. So it's very easy for me to say like 50-50 is my position and then get smoked by Jay-Z from there. But it is what it is. Sometimes you take a shot and you miss. You know what I mean? Like I've beaten more people there than I've lost. So for me, it's not a big deal. But it's one of those things, man. Like I believe I can beat anybody in the world from 50-50. Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong and I'm happy to learn from 50-50 with people that are better than me. You know what I mean? But that's my belief. So how do I filter everything through 50-50? Well, for me, it was like, again, K guard. I didn't know K guard before black belt, but Lockie showed it. I'm like, this gets me to 50-50. How do I delve into that? How do I make grips to get to K guard? So I would just say, okay, find what you love the most, okay, what you enjoy the most, and then how can you add to that to get to that the most? That's where I would go, you know. And then it's going to be difficult for the blue belts and the purple belts because they don't have that vast knowledge yet, or some do, but they might not. So again, man, ask as many questions as you can. You know, that's one of the biggest things. Like if I went to your seminar, I'm the one asking questions. You know what I mean? I ask coaches questions all the time, even coaches that bring me in for seminars. How do you do this? Why do you do it like this? You know, I was at Next Gen the other day, and I've got a really good relationship with Paul. I help his son, Jack, who's amazing. That kid's very talented. Paul obviously is the coach of Paddy Pimblett. Why do you do this? What do you do this? How do you do this? It's not even my sport, but I want to know. You know what I mean? I want to know how he gets an athlete to that level. Okay, what about weight cuts? Man, we had a massive discussion about weight cuts because obviously Paddy cuts a lot of weight. So we were talking about like how they do it, and we were chasing a sauna when we were in there for Grapple Fest, just to sit in, not to cut weight or anything. But that got onto weight cuts. They don't use saunas at all, and I was like, "There's no way Paddy cuts that much weight without using a sauna," and they don't. They have a method that they use. So guess what I did? I learned that method, and I'll take it back and I'll try it. You know what I mean? Like we do this all the time, and I say we because the athletes are the same. You know what I mean? Like an Adele, Mo Black, a Dante, they don't have to ask me how to get better, man. They know, but they will because if I can give them 1%, that's what they want. They want that little bit more.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about your approach now to helping athletes. If an athlete reaches out to you, what are like the first few conversations like?
Yeah, so we discuss like where they are in the world, what they're doing, what their goals are. You know, man, I'm massive on accountability and responsibility. So if they want to work with me, you know, I let them know the price because that's the first thing. People think things are free, and it's like, no, man, this is not free. You know, everybody pays. It's a service. You know, this is my job, and I believe I'm one of the best in the world at it. So you're going to pay me like that. So we discuss that, and if they still want to go on after the price is initiated, I'll send them a couple of forms, man. It's actually, you know, I talk about it a little bit, but not too much. I actually gauge how well I'll work with an athlete in terms of how quickly they get me back those forms and how much detail they put into them. Because if you take a week to get me back those forms, you're not serious. And I don't want to work with you because I don't need the money, thankfully. Like I'm very grateful for the position I'm in. If I'm going to help you, you need to pay, but it's also not about the money for me. But I also only want to work with people that actually care about getting better. You do not have to be a professional. You do not have to want to win ADCC or world, but you have to care about what you're doing. Because the one thing I will do is I will care. And if I care more than you care, we've got a problem. And that's, unfortunately, I'm very much like that, bro. But I don't chase people either. So if you're a high level athlete and you want to work with me, I want to work with you too, but I won't chase you. I'm not gonna ask you for your notes. I'm not gonna ask you for your video. I'm not gonna ask you if you did the plan. If you didn't, that's on you. Because when you step out there, you're gonna know, and I'm gonna know. So um, there's that, man. Also, we just discussed like a big one, man, is like I said, I'm not these guys' coaches. Adele, yes, because we've been together, and she was in my training room for 5 years. So her different, but like how do I work with the other coaches? So like when I first went with Dante to one championship, I walked in the room and Heath Pedigo was there. I never met Heath, never had a interaction with him. I obviously know Spatch because he's Aussie and we go way back. And he wasn't there, but Heath was. Okay, what's my role? He's the best coach in the world. Like he's created multiple champions. What is my role? Your role is what Dante brought you here for. There was no ego with Heath, man. You do what you were brought here for, and I'm happy with that. And then that showed me too, like, okay, this works. Professor Galval, Andre Galval, same thing. When I went to Athos for the ADCC camp for Adele, no, you're coaching her. This is fine. I'm cool with that. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? This is great. Never like, no, this is my room. This is what we do. You're doing this. No, there was no ego with it, man. Whereas some coaches, they don't want me to work with their athletes because they think that I want to steal their athletes or I'm going to steal the shine of what they've done for the athletes and got them to a certain spot. Terrible mentality, man. I tell like Adele all the time, I don't care what you win for me. Will it help? For sure. I'm on a podcast because I helped her win ADCC. Yes, it helps. But I also don't care, man. Like I care about you achieving what you want to achieve. You know what I mean? I've got my own thing, man. Like I like what I do. I like me. I'm validated what I do every day. I love my gym and my daughter is priority over absolutely everything. I couldn't stop jiu-jitsu because I love it so much. But I don't have to coach high level athletes um sorry, there's a do you guys know Shina from Hawaii? Young Hawaiian girl. She's really good, man.
Mm-mm.
Nah, she's calling at the moment. I'll leave that. Anyway, she's really good. Anyway, where was I going with that? I'm not trying to take from you. Where some coaches they want to really like hoard their athlete because it validates them. I don't care, man. I don't need the validation. Like I validate myself. So that's a struggle too. Is really just speaking to those athletes and being like, okay, what are we doing and why? And is your coach okay with this? You know, because if someone says to me, oh, hey, man, can we just keep it on the down low and like not tell anyone? No, it's not because I want the exposure. It's because I don't work like that, man. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
want to go back to something you said earlier about those forms. I am curious about some of that pre-work that you have the athletes do,
Mm.
and maybe some of the introspection and how they're thinking about it. What are like some of the key things you're looking for in their responses in that form?
Honesty. Yeah, honesty is number one. It's basic, man. What are your goals? What are you good at? What are you not good at? What does your training look like? What's your sleep schedule, your eat schedule, blah, blah, blah. Like basic, man. Super basic. How honest are you? Because the chances of me researching you before you get those forms back is very high. Like I probably know who you are. I probably know what you've done. And I probably know a little bit about you as a person because I go deep, like real deep. So I want to see how honest you are. You know what I mean? If I know you can't wrestle and you tell me your wrestling's like a 7 or 8, I know what kind of athlete I'm working with. You know what I mean? But if you tell me like your wrestling's dog shit, and I know it's dog shit, great. Because we can not only can we fix it, but we can work around it. Like it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's a big deal is when you lie. You know what I mean? So same thing. Now we've got East Coast trials this week. Um, and a lot of the guys and girls, they're texting me, they feel like this, they're thinking like this. It's amazing, bro, because they trust me with their deepest feelings to not only judge them, but I can help you when you tell me the truth. If you're nervous because you don't want to fight Jake this weekend, tell me because then we can work on that and we can work on a plan on how to fix that. You know what I mean? But if you don't tell me you're scared of an opponent or you're nervous or whatever, I can't help you. So honesty is number one when I get those forms back, man. And when I talk to people, it's super important. We cannot build that trust, which is the most important thing between athlete and coach, if you lie to me. Because what I won't do is lie to you. If I don't think that you can win ADCC. I've got a kid in my gym. He's amazing, bro. Like he's gives me the hardest rounds. He's 19. He's a purple belt. He can wrestle. He can do leg lock. He can do everything. I'm honest with him. I'm like, bro, if you get a girlfriend or a job or something that takes you away from jiu-jitsu, you won't win ADCC. It's how it is. You've got trials in a month. You can't win trials right now. You can't beat Levi Jones Leary right now. That's realistic. That's not me not believing on him. That's realistic. If he goes out and does it, I'll be the first one to shake his hand and pat him on the back. But we have to be realistic too, right? Can he win trials in 2 or 3 years? Yeah, 100%, bro. Yeah, I really do believe that. But he has to work to get there, so you'll get my honest answer too. The athletes get it too. Adele competed a couple of times and I told her not to. You know what I mean? Like, this is why you shouldn't do this. And this is the reason behind it. And she said, well, Jake, I want to do it. And I said, good, let's go. It's your career. It's not mine. Like, if I'm you just going to get honesty from me, that's all. And then just because you don't agree with me doesn't mean I'm not going to help you. Like, that's not the point of, it's not about me. It's about you. And again, man, I have my own athletic career. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm not winning ADCC, but I'm doing things I like to do and I'm winning stuff that I like to win and I'm competing when I want to compete. What's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like, people want to compare, oh, you and Dante. I'm not Dante, bro. I never was. Like, it is what it is. It doesn't bother me.
100%. Are there some common challenges or problems that you really like helping athletes work with? Like, there's so many things you can help people with. Are there specific people or specific challenges where you're like, oh, I'm really good at that and I really enjoy solving those problems?
Yeah, like in terms of the mentality, man, it's a no excuse mentality for anything. You know what I mean? Like, I live by that and it's not for everybody. And, you've got your famous guys, your Goggins or whatever that live by that mentality. But I've lived by that mentality most of my life. You know what I mean? So again, I knew I had this podcast with you guys today. I knew I've got training straight after this. So I woke up an hour earlier than I should to get my steps on the treadmill, to do my stretching, to answer the athletes, because I don't know if we're going to finish on time. So I'm not going to risk that. You know what I mean? I'm going to get up and get it done so that I don't have to worry about that after. You know what I mean? And we go through that. And it's one of those things, man, that people tell me, man, I don't have the training partners. How many training partners do you have? Oh, there's like 20. What do you mean you don't have the training partners? You need one person to get better at jiu-jitsu. You don't need 20. You need one. You need one person with the same mindset as you, and they do not have to be the same level as you because you can make it work for you. You know what I mean? There's no excuse for anything, man. You know what I mean? Oh, I've got staff. I can't train. Go and get on the assault bike. Yeah, go and study jiu-jitsu. Go and watch footage. Go and coach. Coaching is massive. I mean, go and sit on the sidelines, or if your coach doesn't want you in the gym, get your training partner to film their training rounds, send it to you, break it down, give it back to them. You will get better doing that. There is literally no excuse for why you cannot get better, man. And there's examples every day. I saw an example yesterday. A dude with one leg was carrying sandbags to put on a truck because it's the only job he'd get given. And like, we look at that and we're like, we scroll past it. Oh, that's cool. We scroll past it. Bro, I look at that and be like, man, that guy's mentality is like elite. You know what I mean? Elite. But he's carrying sandbags. He's not throwing touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. So we don't link the two. But that is how it is. You know what I mean? So like, if he's not making excuses, why can I have excuses? I'm very blessed in my life. So how can I do that? So that's one thing I love trying to help the athletes with, man, especially the younger athletes. I've got a lot of kids in my gym, unfortunately, because they give me the shits all the time, but they're 16, 17, 18 then. So like, whether they do things in jiu-jitsu or not, it doesn't bother me. But what I do want to do is make sure that they're good men, and, I don't have younger females, so I can't say good women, but I obviously have a daughter, so I'm not being sexist. I have to tread that line very carefully sometimes, but make sure they're good men. And that means that when they go into the workforce, they're hard workers. That's important to me. That's important that they understand that. So that's a big one, man. The no excuse mentality, helping people understand that. And we all slip up. I slip up too. Goggins definitely slips up. Everybody slips up. It's not about being perfect. It's about being the best you can be every day.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the conversations and what you're working on goes so deep beyond just jujitsu, and then jujitsu is kind of like the way that it plays out. And yeah, Jake and I, selfishly, we do want to talk a little bit about studying as well as journaling.
Mhm.
So Jake, I'll
No, very
pass it
good.
over to you to dive into this topic of like studying and watching footage. I know you mentioned it a couple of times, so I'm curious about your process.
Yeah. So me,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
actually, Jake Luigi, if you want to
Yeah,
tee him up.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I was just, obviously I watch a ton of film, and you do as well,
yeah,
in preparation for like your own competitions as well as your athletes. So, um,
yeah.
I don't know if there's like a system that you like to use, or just like what you tend to look for when you're, like scouting out someone, of whether you should like take them on as a client,
Mhm.
or like prepping your clients for, like other opponents.
Yeah, for sure. So firstly, man, your outlier database has helped a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's crazy because you got Sameta with Lockie, you got some other things. People got Patreons now. It's so easy to find the knowledge now that it drives me crazy that people don't do it. But I could go on all day about that. But for me, man, like in terms of like taking people on, um, it's I don't go too deep for that because, like I said, I really want to see how they are, and how honest they are and things like that. But when we prep for a certain athlete or a tournament, man, I go so deep, it's crazy. It's almost stalkerish. It's bad. But I also feel like you should be so prepared that you don't want to use most of the stuff, then be underprepared. That's my thought process. And again, I tell my athletes all the time, I'll work harder than you as a coach than you do as an athlete. So when I tell you to do something, it comes from a place of study and knowledge and research, and not just, I woke up today and want you to do close guard. That's not how I work. I mean, there's always a reason for it, whether it's short term or long term. This is why I want you doing something. So obviously, man, I definitely study match footage. That's number one. I study instructionals. I love watching training vlogs because I think people are more open in training than they are in matches. They're a lot easier to pull the trigger. But when we look at something like the training vlogs too, if I've got a specific opponent for my athlete, I'll also look at the training partners. Who are they most consistently training with? Then I'll look at that person themselves and what their game is, and have they adapted it to train with the person that we're looking at, or are they actually doing what they're good at? Then I'll look at their competition record. Do they successfully pull this stuff off in competition? Or again, are they just doing it because it's specific to what we're doing? You know what I mean? Yeah, people's stories. I think people got to be more careful about what they put on their stories. One of the counters that we used with Fion, I took off one of her stories, and I was like, okay, she doesn't really do this. Let me look into this. And then I put this into place for Adele, and Fionn wasn't able to get what she wanted from that spot. And that came from her story. So you will never see Adele or Dante put up something that I'm asking them to work on. So if you watch their story, they're not doing that. That's just something they put on their story. Because I have the thought process, man, that if I'm doing this, then the opposite coach is doing this. That's how I work. So like, I don't want that because I want to be more prepared. You know what I mean? I want to out coach whoever I'm coaching against. And I take that personally too. And it's not the person. Like, I don't want to out coach John Danaher because I don't like the guy, or I want to have a win over him per se. It's because I want my athlete to have the best opportunity that they have. What else do I study, man? Man, I read a lot. I read a lot of history. I read a lot of history in terms of like, um, we'll call them generals in armies, or leaders, or whatever you want to call them. Then I'll study a lot of athletes, man. Like I said, I read a lot of autobiographies about athletes, or biographies, and just their mentality on how they work and why, and how things work. And then again, a lot of leadership books. How can I be a better leader? Because if I'm going to lead these guys, I need to be a better leader. And I don't get that right all the time, man. I'm very confrontational. I'm very in your face. And sometimes that's not the right approach. Sometimes I need to be softer, and sometimes I need to be a little bit more empathetic and open to that kind of thing. So I'm constantly myself trying to evolve in these areas. So when I study, man, it's a lot. I do a lot. So this week I know, I actually spoke to my daughter last night. She comes home today, and I'm gonna book off like Friday, not take her to school, and do a lot of stuff because this weekend is obviously trials. So it's like I've got so many athletes that I'm going to be on the computer. I'm going to be running through brackets. So one thing I do, man, is if the athletes are competing on the other side of the world, you need to organize someone that is going to stand there with their phone that I can text during your matches and also during the rest period, who can relay information to you while I'm watching it. You know what I mean? So I'm not just going to leave you to the tournament and be like, oh, hey, like, okay, this is the strategy, go. No, man, I'm going to be like, cool, that was good. Now we've got so-and-so. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to focus on. So when Dante was at WNO, that was Max Hansen, which is crazy because Max Hansen is ridiculous himself. But Max and I were going back and forth between the matches. Okay, this is what he looks like. This is how he feels. This is good. This is what we got to do for the next one. Okay, this is what Philippe did during this, and you know what I mean. Like I said, man, there's so much that goes into it, and this is the next evolution, I believe, of the professional athlete in jiu-jitsu. And it's not very prevalent now, so not a lot of people understand what I do or why I do it, which comes with a lot of negativity. But it's like this is what we're doing, man, and this is how it goes, you know. So there's a like I said, this weekend I'll be sitting in front of the computer and the TV watching multiple trials matches, brackets. You know, I create like a playbook for the athletes. So um, who's one I did for recently. Brianna is a perfect example. Nogi Euros. Okay, this is the opponent you got first round. Okay, this is where they're strong. This is where they're weak. This is where we can capitalize. This is how I would think we should capitalize. And then that's all written down into a playbook, so she can reference it, or she can give it to a coach who's there, or she can give it to a friend, and they can reference it. Whether you use it or not, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't bother me, but it's there in case you need to use it, which is super important, man.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean the results kind of speak for themselves, like you could definitely see like athletes like Brianna, it seems like they've like turned a corner, and just much happier and confident. And yeah, it just seems like they're performing better and they're living a better life.
And
Yeah,
that's a huge one, man. Like sometimes people don't understand. Like one thing I might focus on is just making sure you're enjoying what you're doing.
exactly.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Not just putting in hard training or hard sparring or whatever. It's like, okay, you're not having fun anymore. And this is the main catalyst of why you're not getting the results you deserve. So how do we make it fun? What is fun to you? And then we go like that. And people are like, oh, you can't do that. Like, fun's not a part of it. No, it is. Like nobody does this shit if they don't enjoy it. Nobody gets paid enough, man. Not even Gordon. You know what I mean? Like you're not getting paid enough to just be like, it's not, I don't enjoy what I'm doing. So, okay, we'll find that, again, and then it goes the other way too. Some people we've got to be like, no, it's fun to lock in. You're like, it's not fun anymore. Now you got to do the dirty work. And the next 3 weeks are going to be shit. But at the end of that 3 weeks, when you're standing on top of the podium, then you understand.
And a lot of the work you do with athletes sounds pretty mental. You mentioned in the forum, like, what are your goals is a question you commonly ask. I am
Yeah.
curious about like goal setting, journaling, and just your thought process with all that, like short term, long term, things like that.
Yeah, you need to have goals, man. And goals don't need to be massive. People, when you say goals, people think, oh, win ADCC. That's not a goal. It is a goal, but it's like, it's so broad and there's so many factors that are involved in that. Like, it's not, I don't think it's realistic. Winning ADCC is definitely like a goal. But what I mean is like the process is so much more intense than that. So like, man, it's like, in here, like, oh, I've got it right here, man. So I did this, right? Mark's got this. So I give this to all my athletes. It's a training log, right? Let's see if you guys can see it. So it literally just says, what are my goals for the session? What went well? What do I need to improve? How did I feel? And then it has an attribute rating: mentality, technique, visualization, body, and game plan. So mine's already filled out for today's session because I do it the night before. And every one of my athletes has this. Now they don't have to follow this one, but it's a guideline of what I want them to do and how to do it. Um, and it just keeps us on track of where we need to improve and just being on point with everything, man. And again, nothing then is taking a chance. We know exactly what we're doing and what. That's a goal. You know what I mean? A goal is writing in my journal for a week straight. If you do that for a week straight, you will get better. That will then lead to you getting closer to winning ADCC. So it's not just about the big things. It's about the little things, the small habits, all those kind of things, man. So journaling is a big one. All the athletes need to send notes and I need their notes. You know what I mean? Again, I don't chase you for this, but you need to do it. You need to get it to me. Some people, it could be a conversation. If I'm closer with you as a friend, then it's probably a conversation. Hey, this went well, this didn't, blah, blah, blah. If I'm not, then yeah, you're going to have to write it all out and I'll go over it. Um, that's a big one, man. So, and then in terms of goal setting too, man, like you need to be able to think long term. Where do I want to be in 3 or 4 years? Can I win worlds this year? Probably not. Can I win it in 3 to 4 years? Yeah. So how do I set goals to make sure I'm doing that? So for me, man, I want to win Master One Nogi Worlds this year, right? I haven't done tournaments in ages. It's been super fights for years, you know what I mean? And maybe a couple of tournaments spattered here and there, right? So if I want to win Nogi Worlds in the IBJJF, I need to go back to understanding the rule set. I need to go back to understanding the referees, the arena, the mats, the atmosphere, like all this stuff, right? So all I did was tournaments this year, and all of it was to get me prepared for Nogi Worlds. Now I was lucky enough or good enough to win all the tournaments I entered, but that wasn't the point. The point was that I was getting the experience for Nogi Worlds. So I could set small goals. And some of those small goals were win a referee decision. I had to carry some matches, man. And it's hard because you get to a minute left and you're like, I know I can sweep this guy or I know I can leg lock this guy. So just do it. I get the gold medal. I get to put it on the social media and I look great. No, like ride it out, man, because I'm not going to run through everybody at Nogi Worlds. I'm not going to be able to leg lock everybody at Nogi Worlds. So it's like, these are my goals. My goal is Nogi Worlds. I need this experience. So it's been able to do that as well, man. One of the goals I set for my athletes when they're training is to score and stall. Like it sucks. It's the worst thing in the world, man. I hate it. If you stall on me in the training room, man, I'm either going to talk shit to you or I'm going to Jasmine Hosha kick you in the chest. Like I hate it, man. But
Close
I'll
guard.
program it. Close guard, bro. Yeah. I mean, depending on who you are. But yeah, for sure. But like, man, I'll program it because guess what? If Mo Black's up by a penalty in the final of trials this week and there's 30 seconds to go, I'm not telling her to take this girl out. Yeah. I'm telling her to circle and run. You're not going to get enough penalties to lose that match. You know what I mean? And it's about winning. It's not always about being pretty or being the most exciting. Now, you can have athletes like that, and that might be their mentality. I don't really have any athletes like that, man. You know, Keith is probably the closest. And even if you watch Keith's performances over the last, 12 to 18 months, we've kind of brought him back from that, man. We brought him back from that. I'm going to have a shootout with you and see who wins. You know, he's been very more disciplined and strategic, and it's proven well, you know. Pato didn't blow him out, and usually the young Brazilian kids blow Keith out and he didn't. You know what I mean? He had a really good match run at EDI. Yeah, he lost to Landon, but it happens sometimes. And the UFC, the match with Isaac, I thought he won. It is what it is, but again, he didn't get blown out. Then he went back and he fought that young Brazilian kid, and he beat that dude. So like, I don't really have any guys that just want to go out there and just throw it to the wind. I don't really work really well with those guys. I'm not against them at all. I think it's amazing. I love watching them. But like I said, I prefer the winning over the highlight, so I don't have a lot of guys like that. So if we have to stall, so be it.
So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of athletes, they may have one goal in mind, but you help to uncover and break it down into smaller, more process goals versus this one overarching goal that might seem far
Have to.
away.
Have to, you know what I mean? And if you look at Kobe Bryant's probably my favorite athlete of all time. You watch when he came into the league compared to when he left. When he came in, it was all about, I want to be the GOAT. I want to win championships. And then as he got older, it was like, man, the process. You know what I mean? He started to talk more about the process. The process brought him championships. Not, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to go out there and get in your face. I'm going to slam dunk on you and I'm going to win. No, that didn't work. It didn't. And then when they started focusing on the process of the triangle offense and, get the ball to Shaq and, okay, I got to take a step back. I can't score 40. I got to score 20. Then they won championships. You know what I mean? So the process is always more important. And when you're younger, I get it, man. You want to go out there. Like I told Adele, like when we were at London Open, like you need to do this, this, and this before you can attempt a submission. She don't like it. She's got a high submission rate and she wants to submit and she wants to keep that rate. I'm like, yeah, but I want you to win, this and this. And this is why I need you to do this. So sometimes they don't like it, but sometimes it is what it is. That's why you need a person like me. And I'm not saying I'm your guy, but you need a person like John's the same, man. I spoke to a few people about their strategy for CGI. Wagner was not brought on that team to highlight people. Yeah, he was brought on that team to not get submitted and to grind it out and take out a dude. Beautiful. There's no one better in the world to do that than Wagner Hosha. And he knew his role and he played his role to perfection, man. You know what I mean? And he had some amazing matches. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, sometimes the goals we set, man, they don't make sense or they're not the fun, flashy ones, but they're the ones that make the difference.
Mhm. And it's easy for, I think people, when they think about goals, they think about that outcome goal, that trophy, that first place, that big championship. But then it's the hard work seems to be all those small little process goals along the way that support you to that major goal. Like the goal of I need to learn how to stall and like develop this skill on
Yeah,
its own. Do you get any pushback from athletes about the journaling and the writing? Or, oh, I'm not into that. I don't
yeah.
want to do that. And how do you handle that?
I don't fight them on it, man. It's one of those things that if they don't want to do it, that's fine, but they need to do something. You know what I mean? So, okay, maybe they don't want to write notes, maybe put it in your phone. Okay, you don't want to write notes, maybe voice note it. Okay, you're really, really not a notes person, then send me training footage. You know what I mean? Send me 5, 6 rounds. Okay, or call me once a week. You know what I mean? Get on the phone. You know, I hate phone calls, but if you call me and you're one of my athletes, I'll answer. If you're my mum, decline, send me a message. Like, I'm not a call guy, bro, but like for work, I'll do it. So like, I don't really fight them on it because not everybody's the same, and I don't treat all the athletes the same. They're individuals, and they need to be treated like individuals. That's why, like I said, I don't work for teams, man. I have a team. I love my team. You know what I mean? There's nowhere I'd rather be in the world. I love when I travel, and I love visiting different gyms, and I love being in other gyms. I love my gym. I love being there. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So I don't want to force people to do stuff they don't want to do because at some point they'll break. And at that point, you know, that's when the trust might break or they might get a bit resentful or because they're doing stuff they really don't like. If you're being lazy, that's different. If I can tell you're being lazy, I'll be on your ass. But if it's like Brianna's a perfect example, man, if I forced her to text me every day, she's not going to do it. We're probably going to have a falling out and I'm not going to work with her. You know what I mean? But if she texts me once a week or calls me once a week, like she texted me this morning, you know what I mean? So that's probably the last I'll talk to her for 2 or 3 days. But I know she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. So I'm not worried about it. You know what I mean? If it was a case of, oh, like I got to hold your hand, we probably won't work together very well, man. I don't hold people's hands very well. You know what I mean? It's not my style as a person. You know what I mean? I'm not that way as inclined as a person. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't force them to do it, man, but there has to be something. There has to be something there. And whatever that is for you, let's do that, you know?
Yeah, as you've been helping athletes, and maybe we'll wrap up with this question. Do you have a favorite or do you have a defining like coaching moment in your career where you were like, oh, you know what? I think this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to pursue.
Man, I used to be petrified of it. Because I always thought I was a better coach than an athlete, and I didn't want that. I want to be the guy in the arena. You know what I mean? I want to be the guy that's fighting. So I used to hate it like bad. Adele and I actually had a falling out years ago because I couldn't coach her because I was jealous that people gave her more attention than me, and I was like, "But I'm better than you." Like, how are people coming in the room and being like, "Man, she's so good," when I smoked you worse than she did, and like I couldn't handle it, man. And it took me taking a step back and having to validate myself to be like, okay, no, this is different. And it's okay that it's viewed this way. You know what I mean? So that was a big thing for me. But in terms of a coaching moment, man, not so much like a so two, and Adele will probably hate me when she listens to this because it doesn't involve her. Well, it does, but not really. Like it's not so much the winning of things, man. It's the experiences. So like coaching next to Professor Galval at ADCC was surreal because like you know he was my era of terms of like I watched him so much, and not just coaching next to him, but like he gave me the main seat. You know what I mean? And he gave me the not the opportunity because obviously I was there for Adele, but like he didn't take over, man. You know, he let me do my thing and he trusted me to do my thing in those finals at ADCC when I'd never been there as a coach, you know, and Adele had never been there as an athlete, whereas he had athletes that had won before and he'd won it himself. So like, you know, that was a bit surreal and still is to me the fact that he allowed me to do that and was so selfless in that, you know, and she was representing Atos and it meant a lot because that they can market that, you know what I mean? And he trusted that I wouldn't fumble as the coach. And then coaching Dante or helping Dante, whatever it is, man, same thing. We're in the same bracket, same weight class coming up. So I watched so much of him and I modeled a lot of my style off of him. So for him now to be like, hey man, what do you see that's not working? Or how do we do this? Or how do we beat this person is like still a little bit surreal to me because it's like you know, he's always been the guy to me. So that's another one, man. It's a little bit like I was speaking about this with Mo Black last night. Like I got to pinch myself sometimes when I'm studying for Dante because it's like he was always the guy for me that was as a competitor, and the mindset too, man. I just gravitated towards his mindset of just like fuck this, I'm doing it anyway. You know what I mean? So as an athlete, it would be harder for me to relate to someone that is a little more laid back and more chill. You know, like the Rotulos, they're very hard. I love them and I've trained with them. I think they're great people. They're hard for me to relate to because I'm not like that. I'm not. I don't surf. You know, I'm not. I don't. I'm not very chilled, bro. Like I'm very like structured and routine and professional and like, you know what I mean? So with Dante it was very easy to gravitate towards. So they're probably the two, man. And you know, I'll throw in winning AECC with Adele, or else she'll crack the shits and she'll get silky at me, man.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's awesome to hear your gratitude in reflecting upon the career and like just taking a moment to pause and appreciate those things. As we wrap up, do you have any final parting words? Maybe most of the audience here listening is, they're not professionals. They do this for fun, but they
Mm.
want to improve and like studying and nerding out and whatnot. Any parting words for the audience to take away?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Anything I've said is not just related to the professionals. I coach just as many, let's say, hobbyists or people at the level down from professional as I do from the professionals. Have you guys you guys watch basketball or understand basketball or anything like that? A little bit, yeah. Bro, go and watch a Monday or a Wednesday night rec league basketball game and tell me those guys don't take it serious. Yeah, they fucking do, man. Sometimes more than the professionals. So it's not just about being a professional. The professional comes with making it a career or a lifestyle. You know what I mean? So anything I've said, like guys, you can reach out to me. You can ask me. You know, we can look to working together. You don't have to be a professional. I have my Patreon as well, which is just under my name. I share a lot of what I do with the athletes on there, not just like, oh, here's a technique. You know, I delve a lot into that. And most of the time when I travel with the athletes, they'll get on the Patreon as well and either show something or talk about stuff. So there's that a lot, man. So I would just encourage them, man. Find a coach, a mentor, a friend, a training partner, anyone that's just going to help you improve and surround yourself with them or that person as much as possible. And work together to get better. You know, we have a massive team first mentality in my gym. And it makes a difference, man. So when I talk about, Adele, Bree, Dante, whatever, Keith, we're a team. You know, I work with their team. It's not just us. It's a team thing, man. I think that's super important and one thing that gets lost these days. But yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And then we'll link your Instagram as well as the Patreon and anything else you'd like us to in the
Awesome. I
description.
really, yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.